Well, hello, hello, and aloha, y'all. So today I wanted to welcome my good friend, someone who has become somewhat of a bit of a mentor to me, and some has a this thing in spirit about him that I just resonate with so much. His name is Nick Mysore, and he is a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, a venture brand builder. I mean, I could just go on with the list. I mean, this man has worked with companies like like the Got Milk campaign, which I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. He has worked with TrueMove, Healthy Choice, Verizon, Dean Foods, TXU Energy. I mean, he with startups like Vim Vitae, and just to mention a few, and I'm sure the list can go on and on and on, but we don't have that kind of time today. So how are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good, Chantel. Thank you for having me on your program.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You and I have been talking for quite some while about how you and I needed to do something like this. And it's happened a little sooner than we had anticipated. As you know, all this crazy stuff that's happening in the world right now. How are you navigating right now through everything?
That's a pretty open-ended question, but I can tell you it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not easy. I mean,
Yeah.
what has transpired with COVID-19 has really caught the US flat-footed, I thought.
Yeah.
And it's costed a lot of lives, right?
Absolutely.
The last figure that I had looked at was something like about 40,000 people have lost their lives. There are about 700,000 people who have been infected with COVID-19, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's just in the US. And think about it, we are the largest and the mightiest nation in the world.
Mhm.
And we have got ourselves caught in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty sad.
Absolutely. I mean, it really is. And even it hits close to home for so many of us now because of the degrees of separation of people in America.
That's right.
Um, where you either are knowing someone, they're part of your family, they're a good friend of yours. I had just talked about this in another interview too, as well, that one of my clients' fathers, who used to come to all of our meetings, passed away from this. And we're talking
Oh,
about
I'm
this
so
guy
sorry
was
to hear that.
strong. Thank you.
So sorry
He,
to hear
he
that.
was strong and walked over a mile that day that I had seen him, which was, I mean, I saw him 2 weeks before that, or 3 weeks before that. And then we found out he had it, and then he was just gone. And so it's
That's right.
hitting closer and closer to home. And
That's
and,
right.
and you, what are your
See,
thoughts?
worldwide, if you think about the statistics today, right? Worldwide, you got 2.3 million people,
Yes,
okay, who have got it infected. That's a
yes,
lot,
yes.
right? And then on top of all that, you've got about 165,000 deaths.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of human life that's been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And, in my mind, as a strategist and somebody who really cares about human life and who
Mm-hmm.
really is wanting to impact in the right way, right?
Yes,
Because I'm looking and say, could we have prevented it? And if we couldn't prevent it now, obviously, right? Can we
yeah,
do something for the future to
yeah.
help out, right? So how am I coping with it? I'm constantly thinking about what can I do for the future? How can I help
Mm-hmm.
the country, my local community, right? My state and my local community
Yes,
navigate this? And can we create far reaching efforts, right? To
yes.
ensure that this does not repeat itself again.
Absolutely. And I think too, and I think this is really heavy on your heart as well, because you're in health and wellness. You're in that
Yes,
industry, you're in renewable energy, and you're also
yes,
in the technology driven innovation type things. And we were just talking about this, that there's a common theme there. And the common theme
that's
is,
right.
what is the solution for now that will have that positive effect for the future? And
That's
so
right.
I could definitely see where your heart is in all of this.
No,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Because we can only do, like, as a human being and somebody who really cares about the community.
Yes.
I have reached out to our political leaders because COVID-19 knows no partisanship. There's
Mhm.
no no race, no creed, no religion that has
Doesn't
been
discriminate.
spared.
It does
It
not
does
discriminate.
not discriminate. It
No, it
tells
does.
you that every one of us are part of that same human tree,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we're all vulnerable. How
Yeah.
do we stop this vulnerability,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that is the key, because this is an invisible enemy that none of us knew existed.
Mm-hmm.
I hear all these stories about, hey, it's been created in a lab and it's been done, wherever. Doesn't matter. You got to have a solution, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a solution, what's the point in
Yes.
calling ourselves the mightiest nation in the world, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's the point in saying that we have all this technology and DNA? We
Mm-hmm.
have capabilities of genetics, right? We have all these large pharmaceutical companies who
Yes.
are out there. We couldn't freaking get masks and ventilators out to New York.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Yeah.
pretty sad.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I have been toying around with is to launch a digital marketplace
Mm.
where we can actually help people get these types of products in one place that can be in a state of crisis. We can
Absolutely.
use that. So I've talked to one of my Canadian companies that I sit on the board of,
Yes.
and I've asked them to actually create a model which we can use post COVID-19 to kind of figure out the best way to create a marketplace that people, if you need it in China, you're able to send it. And I
Yeah.
picked China as an example because when they were in a crisis in January, we should have sent what we could, right? Because now they could have reciprocated to the US.
Yeah. Yes.
And again, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but what I'm saying
But
is it
here's
doesn't
the,
matter to me.
it's not the
That
politics, it's the people of it. Sometimes
correct.
it's not
You
about
got it.
politics, it's about
That's right.
people.
That's right.
Yes.
It's
I
all about the
totally agree.
people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you make sure? Like I have a friend of mine who is 76 years old, great guy, great family office. They invest a lot into philanthropic projects and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And I was thinking, the guy is so vulnerable today. That's how it's changed my life. It's changed my life because I used to like to travel. I used to go to different places, meet clients. Today
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here in my home office,
Yeah.
and I've been told by my wife not to step out of the house.
Smart woman. Smart woman.
That's
And you
right.
ain't used to that. Both you and I are not used to that.
That's right. We're not used to being stuck
No,
in the
we're not.
house. But I've been asked, stay put, don't go anywhere.
Yeah, stay put. But thank God that there's technology that we can sit here together and do things
That's
like
right.
this.
That's
There
right.
are solutions these
It's
days.
the solutions. Technology is a great solution,
Mhm.
right? Does it make you lonely? Of course it does. Right?
Of course, you can be in a house with the same people every single day and still have an
That's right.
element of
That's right.
feeling lonely because,
That's right.
yeah. Mhm.
But how do you cope with it? You create a mission for yourself. You create a goal. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I was locked up like this, and I'm still locked up, I took different projects and I said, okay, let me finish it. It actually made me more laser guided to finish the project.
Yeah.
And when people were calling me in panic, small businesses that I deal with, they
Yeah.
call me in panic. And some of them are in petrified. They don't know what the future holds, right?
Yes.
My financial planners call, the dry cleaners that I know call, doctors
Yeah.
call, right? And they're all in a state of panic because they don't know what this entails. Yes, this is the first time, right, for them that they are actually seeing a doctor. Take an example of a doctor or a psychiatrist, right?
Yeah.
Always in control.
Yes.
He's out of control.
Yep. Yep.
He doesn't know how to get control back in his life,
Yeah.
right? As an entrepreneur or a businessman, right? What are you doing if you're a small business franchise owner? You talked about franchises to me quite
Yes.
often,
Yes.
okay? And one of the things I noticed is if you're a franchisee today, right, and you got franchises that you just opened in December, all of a sudden you're shut down. Your retail store
Well,
is shut
and
down. Your
yeah.
restaurants are shut down,
Yeah.
right? Your people are unemployed. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It changes the way you have to think about how businesses operate, right?
Yeah.
And I think, for me, it was all about, okay, now we are in this situation. let us try to find a solution to the problem, right?
Mhm.
And I love the fact that people like Mark Cuban and Jerry Jones and, you know,
Yes.
Trump has put up a task force out there, which I
Yes.
think, given to go out there and try to figure out how to fix the economy, right?
Yes.
Uh, I'd be more than happy to volunteer for that,
Yeah.
right? Because this is the kind of stuff that we have to think about as a future and act upon, right? For the
Yes.
future of our community, our people, and our country and the world in general, right?
Yes.
And that is why when I talked to this company that I sit on the board of, I said, let us create a marketplace which can be scalable in an instant,
Mm-hmm.
so that people can come in and put their products out there. So you could be sitting in Timbuktu with your product, okay? Let's say you had face masks, 300 face masks sitting in Timbuktu, and somebody needed it
Yes.
desperately in New York. I should be able to go get it,
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay? So that's kind of so I hope I answered that question. I went about
No, but
quite a few directions, but
it's
I
all
wanted to give you my
connected to
thoughts.
each other, you know?
That's
Everything is
right.
just all connected to each other.
That's
There's a
right.
lot of synergy with everything that you're saying. And
Yeah,
and I think it's important to be able to give people some of these golden nuggets, if you will,
that's right.
out there to give them the advice, you know, without any other intention but to help.
That's right. So, so think about this. Let me take one sector,
Yeah,
health and wellness. Okay,
that's your thing.
very, very favorite. It's, it's a favorite topic of mine. It's
Yes.
all about, you know, um, trying to capture your essence, capturing your youthfulness, everybody ages, right? I mean, age, you can't
Yeah.
battle it, but you can try to stem it.
Yeah.
One of the things that people talk about is in health and wellness, what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, all these, and the kind of products you mix together, right, for
Yes.
eating your food, natural, organic, so on and so forth, can
Yes.
make a big difference in how your immunization system reacts to these kind of viruses.
Oh, absolutely.
If they had the right immunization system because of their diet, all of a sudden, the immunization and immunity is a lot stronger. They
Mm-hmm.
can battle out these, hopefully, they can battle out the virus.
Yes.
I'm not a scientist or a doctor to tell you this, but all I can say is it's common sense.
Yes.
Right? It's
Yes.
common sense. So being able to take that common sense principles and not and applying that to our people, our community, educating them, providing them with the educational resources. I'll give you two ingredients that people use: ginger, garlic, right? Can help
Turmeric.
your immunization system. Green vegetables, right? Can help your immunization system. Taking, a juice that is good for you and your body with less sugar can help your immunization system.
Right.
Turmeric,
Yes.
right, can help your immunization system. So when I start looking at health and wellness as a platform, there's so much we can do in the future to help the community to understand, right? It's not about just um, saying it and creating a food pyramid. It's
Yes.
about applying that food pyramid to the local communities, right?
Yes.
One of my friends, what she has done is she's devoted a lot of time and donated to the food banks.
Mm.
And my sister actually joined up with a bunch of her friends and created cloth masks and donated it to
Yes.
different first responders in
Yes.
Plano. She donated it to a couple of these nursing homes, right? Now, those are all things that are very valuable for us to do from a health and wellness perspective. Hand
Yes.
sanitizers, right?
Yes.
I mean, you see this run that you see. I mean, preoccupation with toilet paper, for heaven's sake,
Yes.
right? Okay? Rather than that, think about the health and wellness and the wellness of your family. How are you going to feed them? What are you going to do to make sure that they have the right ingredients, right?
Yes.
So health and wellness is one good example.
Yes.
The other example, when I think about renewable energy, think about what's happening in renewable energy. I was in the middle of two transactions, huge transactions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Big transactions, all to help renewable energy projects get off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the supply chain is being impacted. How are you going to get the machines up to the hill in as a wind turbine up the hill if you don't have the drivers who can actually deliver the wind turbines,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, how can you commit to a $200 million project when you do not have the capacity to put people on the ground? Because you can't travel from one part of the world to another part of the world.
Yep, that's a big
Now,
problem.
all of a sudden, that changes things, right?
Yes.
So when I look at that space, again, there are so many things. Banks, when they lend on these huge projects,
Mm-hmm.
there's a risk.
Yes.
Now, how are they going to mitigate their risk, right? Now, let's turn from renewable energy to technology. So we talked about health and wellness, talked about renewable. Now, let's talk about technology.
Yes.
We supposedly have wonderful data computational resources. You know, you've got NSA, you've got the biggest data storehouse anywhere. Let's use it and create the models to help us understand how pockets of these diseases can be controlled,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Genetics. You know, Google has all this information, right? What is the company? 23andMe, Ancestry
Yes.
DNA.
Yes.
Use those genetics if you can, always maintaining the privacy of the individual,
Yes.
right? To figure out a way to find a solution. Pharmaceutical companies use the computational power
Mm-hmm.
that you have at your disposal to come up with a faster, better vaccine.
Yes. Yeah.
These are the thoughts that, you know, as I sit here, I ponder and I say, how do I take action on it? So I
Yeah.
reached out to the CEO of one of the largest companies who in the chemical spraying business, and I said,
Uh-huh.
how can you get me a detoxing capability,
Yeah.
right? And spray something that can get rid of this virus,
Uh-huh.
right? Because they say the virus can stay on plastic, it can stay on
Yes.
cardboard, it
Yeah.
can come from hand to hand transmission, right?
Yes.
At this rate, it can stay in your freezer. I don't know what is true, what is not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying, guys, if there is a way to do that, you should be able to, because I remember once traveling from the US to Australia, and
Uh-huh.
they came in for, and they sprayed for fruit flies in the flight. At
Yes.
that time, I was pretty annoyed that they did that. But now when I think about it, not a bad idea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But but the thing is, the other thing that has really struck me as odd, with all this technology, we never had the capability to do testing.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got flat-footed in testing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the testing, we didn't have the cure.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have testing, we didn't have diagnosis capabilities, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have the cure.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So no wonder you're stuck. It's a trifecta.
Mm-hmm.
If you test and you knew, there could be a lot more people infected. A lot more
Mm-hmm.
people could be asymptomatic. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what I do know is we have the technology, we have the capability to harness the power of the data
Mm-hmm.
and use that data to help companies make faster decisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I mean, I'm in complete agreement with you. And this is where, um, listen, when people want to be resourceful, they can be very resourceful. And I think now is the time for some of these people that are in high level positions that have the resources to try to come up with some solutions and kind of put their brains together on what they can do.
That's
And
right.
I would like to see that happening a bit more. I'm surprised that I'm not seeing it done a little bit more publicly as well too, so that it kind of keeps the Americans in the loop of things, or the people around the world. I'm not seeing much of that. Have you?
There are think tanks out there. There
Yeah.
are think tanks that are thinking about it.
Yeah.
They are talking about what the future. So think about one of the questions you had asked me some time back, Nick. What do you think the future will be?
Yes.
Social distancing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A great example. In America, we shake your hand. In India, we do this.
I hug.
Okay,
And you know that about me. I'll go in for the hug.
that's right. Now all of a sudden, you got social distancing. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so shaking hands may not be a very good option for a
No.
while
No.
till all this is sorted out, right? So
Hmm.
I go back to my ancestral domain and say,
I
Namaste.
might have to go back to your ancestral stuff too as well, or just go with my Japanese side. And also, it's pretty much the same thing. It's
It's the same thing, isn't it? That's right. That's
we'll
right.
just be bowing a lot to each
That's right.
other. Yeah.
That's
Hey,
right.
we're a melting pot in America, so we can
That's
treat
right.
each other however we want. But the handshake and the hugs are very big.
That's right.
Yeah.
And look, and that is how we express ourselves,
Yeah.
right? As humans, we need that touch. We need that feel. We need to know that, hey, I care about you, right? And
Yeah.
now distance, social distancing is a problem. And I can tell you this, having psychiatrists as cousins and so on and so forth,
Yes.
doctors, right? They're
Yeah.
finding that it has created a real problem mentally for people.
Absolutely.
But think about the mental turmoil that people are going through, okay, in terms of social distancing,
Oh my gosh.
okay?
Absolutely.
Right?
Hmm.
So it changes how you have to think about things and how you help people through that process, right? Because I don't hug you doesn't mean I don't love you,
Yeah. Right. Right.
you know? So,
Absolutely.
so those are things that I really am very passionate about, that
Hmm.
we should be able to communicate that feeling to the other person, even though you're socially distant, right,
Yes.
from them.
Absolutely. And there's so many different ways to communicate now.
That's right.
Again, going back to the
Use your
technology.
technology. Use your technology as much as you can.
Yes.
Use the technology, like what we are doing.
Mhm.
We are running our business through literally through these video conferencing calls,
Yes.
and talking to people on the phone, conference calls, and we are running our whole business our way. Now, will it be impacted? Yes, because I can tell you it goes like this, right?
Yes.
Because you can't do that face to face. Look at the airline industry. I
Oh,
feel,
absolutely.
okay, what a mess.
Mm-hmm. Huge mess. And I think
And it also behooves us on the people, right? So
yes.
let me tell you, the people themselves, if you're sick, stay at home. You don't have to prove anything to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Right? Because there were people who would come to the office and they were sick.
Ah,
It's not necessary.
uh-huh.
Okay? If you don't feel well, take the time off, get better.
Yes.
Take the health and wellness products that are out there. I
Yeah.
won't tout which ones, but take them. Eat
Yeah.
well,
Yes.
you know,
Rest. That's another big
and
one.
rest.
And you know what's so interesting to me too, as well, as you have more people not sleeping because they're at home so much. And you would think that maybe people who are maybe going through depressions may sleep more, but I've been hearing in general from business colleagues of mine and contacts and friends and family that they're sleeping a lot less. And I think it's because we're not expending all the energy out in the world. And, we come home and we've had a long day. We've been here, there, here. And then we get fit, like, especially physically tired once we hit the bed, and it's a lot easier to fall asleep. People are getting less sleep right now because of less physical activity. So
That's right.
even doing the physical activities at home are going to be very important to help you with rest and sleep. A lot of people are worried more than ever, so their brains just don't stop and shut down. And so yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right, because people don't sleep. There's
Mm.
another problem. You know what it is? It's substance abuse or
Yes.
alcohol
Yeah.
abuse, right?
Yes.
Because people are, think about it. If you're lucky, you have a family.
Yeah.
Okay, your family supports you.
Yes.
I know so many people who are single, who have gone through their divorce, families somewhere else. There are one or two people in their family. They're not like
Yes.
us, huge,
Yeah.
families that are within a 50-mile radius. I could
Yeah.
count about 100 people
Yeah.
from my family.
Yeah.
But if you're alone, and you have no one else, right? What do you do?
Yes.
You're scared.
Yes.
You're petrified. Not
Yes.
only have you lost your job, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening because companies are shedding.
It's furlough, it's laid off, it's all of those things happening
Correct.
right now. Yes.
Okay, you can't open your restaurant, whatever it is. You've
Mm-hmm.
taken a huge loan.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at these small business companies and some of the people who have spoken to me on the phone, and I've said, guys, this is happening. What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
I only have myself and maybe, my spouse to rely on.
Yes.
And we're both saying, what
Yes.
happens now?
Yes.
Who takes care of us? There's no extended family all of a sudden. So think about it. It's a small percentage, maybe. I don't know the numbers around it, but I can tell you there are people who are going through this emotional trauma, and that trauma is going to last a long time. So
Yeah.
one of the things when you said, what's the impact
Yeah.
of coronavirus on the future?
Mm-hmm.
Social distancing. You have to think about social distancing,
Yeah.
right? Okay, what happens all of a sudden? Single woman, you want to go on a date.
Yeah, that's not happening. But sure, I mean,
You follow what I'm
it
saying?
could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
Yeah,
gonna be
it's a tough thing. There are
sitting
people
at
who
the
are
opposite end of the bar, calling
correct.
each other from the other
People are
side. Hey,
ignoring.
what's going on?
People
How's
are
your food
ignoring.
down there?
That's right. People are ignoring it, but there is definitely a
Yeah.
situation, right? Unless you find a virus cure.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Unless you find a vaccine
Yeah.
that can stop the virus, it's hard to
Right.
think about how do you get back, right?
Well,
So
even so, it's going to take a lot longer to come up with it. Although obviously they are working on a vaccine, it's not going to
correct.
come next month.
That's right. It
Yeah.
could be about, so the social distancing could be one point that could be a 2-year process. We don't know that
Yeah.
till they find a cure for it, just like they did the flu vaccine, right?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, the other thing that is really interesting to me is when I look at the future as to how this can change, think about contact tracing.
Hmm.
So you as a human being have gone there to, let's say, a party, you contract coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do I trace that you had gone to the party? Now, what does that do to my civil liberties?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy decided he went somewhere and he was having fun with someone,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he contracted this coronavirus. How's he going to tell his wife?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there are a lot of things regarding that can impact the future. The other thing that can impact the future is the whole economy is in kind of a mess. And I really admire our leaders, political leaders, for trying to get the economy back on track. So
Yes.
whatever, you know, political affiliations there are as a group, we have to think about how do we get this economy back up
Mm-hmm.
and running, because you make a living, I make a living using the economy. And
Yes.
I can't do that right now very well because the first quarter has been a disaster.
I'm sure. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So um, we have to think about how to get that economy up and running in a way. So now that brings me to the stimulus package. Okay, and how does that stimulus package cascade down? Why can't we make it easier for it to cascade down to my local dry cleaner, to my local doctor, to my local consultant
Right.
who's working on a project? You, for example, women entrepreneurs
Yeah.
who they took their life savings, started a business in the last quarter of 2019, literally saw life savings evaporate.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So do they apply for unemployment because they lost the business? Do they
Mm-hmm.
apply for a stimulus package to get back some of their financial stability? Do they apply for a grant?
Uh-huh.
Right? Do they apply for charitable donations? I mean, you
Uh-huh.
got to start thinking about all these factors, right? So when I look at Bill Gates's foundation, some of these other foundations, which are Branson's foundation, right? Some of them should have the ability to consider helping women-owned businesses, minorities, even anybody, it doesn't matter, right? To get them back working, being productive, right? And controlling the natural resources, right, at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so I want to see how this stimulus package plays out. How do you help them, right? I heard that there was somebody who went to a small business to apply for the small business loan,
Oh,
right?
the SBA.
Yeah. And she said, oh, it only applies to people who have people working on payroll. What happens to me? I have me working on payroll.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's sole proprietor. What happened?
A lot of people have independent contractors too that work for
That's
them,
right.
like
That's right.
given myself as well. Yeah.
That's right.
A lot of
Just
independent
change the life.
contractors.
This is one of the reasons why, when I teach at local colleges, I taught at SMU a couple of times. I've done different universities.
Yes.
The thought here is impart what you know. Doesn't mean you're right?
Right.
Impart what you know that people can take that knowledge and go out there and do
Yeah.
better with it. If you improve it on what I suggest to you, go for it.
It's like taking the meat
That
and
makes me
cutting the fat.
proud.
Taking those, I think
Yes.
it's just being able to take the meat, cut the fat, take the stuff that you resonate with, that makes sense to you, and make it your own and better it.
Impart it to
Impart it
people.
and pass it on.
That's right.
Impart it, pass it
That's
on.
the next generation. Right? Somebody was
Legacy.
telling me,
Legacy.
oh, is the older generation that's at risk. And I said, that's fine. But have you noticed that the kids dying of coronavirus? How come?
Yeah.
Right? So it goes back to the same thing: testing, diagnosis, and cure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and all three of them require technology, require people to come forward, require government grants, right? Now, tomorrow, if I tell you, Chauntel, we can create a company, million mass, right? And here's a government grant to get you started. What happens? That changes the dynamics. Why am I giving the grant to the largest companies
Yeah.
to create ventilators?
Yeah. Yep.
Small businesses are lifeblood. So this is how I want to communicate that, right, to the economists and all the people in the high towers, right?
Yes.
Who have their ivory tower knowledge. Take practical solutions and apply that to my small business consumer. Don't you think somebody who's owning a distillery, a lot of distilleries are now creating sanitizers, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes.
New business model. I don't know how profitable it is compared to the alcohol business, but that's a new business model.
Still solution, still providing a solution, supply and demand.
Correct. So if you separate out the supply chain, right, where there's an alcohol process and there is a hand sanitizer process, maybe you can do that. Right? So you never run out of hand sanitizers, because that kind of what transpired in January, February, March was pathetic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We should not have had that happen, right? Where hand sanitizers disappeared, rubbing alcohol that is needed for my first responders, right?
Yes.
Disappeared.
Yes.
Right? Masks disappeared. Ventilators, non-existent. Why?
Again, it's the preparation was not there. We were not prepared for anything like that.
That's right.
But we can't hop in a time machine and change it.
But you can do it for the future.
But you can do it now.
Yes.
You are in the time machine for the future right now.
Yes, that's right.
And what you choose to do right now with things and the plans and the things that need to be implemented for the future can be done now on a small scale and a very great scale. And I think everybody can contribute to that, no matter how big or small you think it is. There are powers in numbers.
That's right. So look at this thing, for example, one of the things, that's a great point that you mentioned to me, because when I look at it, there are people who are asymptomatic.
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they have COVID-19. Study them quick. Use
Yes.
the data to understand what it is,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Use that to help the people who could get infected,
Yes.
right? Stop worrying about, you know, non-essential things and start thinking about how do you take each and every one of these variables that are staring us at the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apply it to create a solution for the future.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why, you know, when I went talked to this digital company that I was part of, I told them, go for it. Probably you may not make any money doing it, but
Yeah.
if you can apply your technology to help the people,
Yes.
that's your legacy.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And what is your, what is the, what is some bullet points that you can give out there? And we've already gone through so many already for these small business owners who either are working now part-time or working differently or completely shut down. What are a few kind of things that maybe in their different circumstances of advice that you can give them about what they need to be doing right now? Because I think that's important. Obviously, we covered a lot too as well, but if you can get into a few specific things that they should be working on or looking at right now, keeping in mind what our new normal is looking like here now and in the near future and even the future to come, because this simply isn't going to just be a few months and then it's done. I mean, we are
No,
looking at a
no.
historical moments that we have been through this past couple of months as globally. So what are some things that you feel like they need to focus on? And my second part to that question is how do you keep yourself, even though all this craziness is happening, how do you not go into a mode of fear and uh, feeling frozen during this time too as well?
A great question, Chantal. Great question. Because that has been the common theme I've heard is
Yeah.
fear, and they're petrified. They don't know how to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Great, great example. Look, life has been kind to us, so I can tell you that when I see somebody who's making $30,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and running a restaurant 24/7,
Yeah.
okay, and they lose that income and they have no other education, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Right? What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
That is fear, right? That's the
Absolutely.
source. So one thing I say, and I gave you that as an example, but it prevails to doctors. It prevails to us, you
Yeah.
and me,
Yeah.
right? Because we are making a living by
Yeah.
talking to people and consulting to people and giving them
Yes.
their advice. If I
Yes.
don't have the customers coming to me, how am I supposed to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing that I always say is, at least this is for myself, I have to think positive.
Yes.
Okay. So you mentally think positively about how things can change. So if you dwell on the past and dwell on what was not working,
Mm.
right? You're never going to fix it. You got to think about, okay, it wasn't working. How do I fix it?
Yes.
Right? So a restaurant can start thinking of, if you're the restaurant, let's say post COVID-19, and you have to have 6 feet distance between the tables,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, what have you done? Your tables are shorter, right?
Yeah.
Right? In the sense, smaller, the density
Yeah.
of the tables, right?
Yes.
So instead of having 32 tables, maybe in your 1,200 square feet or whatever it is that you have,
Yes.
you have 10 or
Yes.
15, right? So
Yeah.
it's half the tables, right? Now,
Yes.
that could happen. The other thing
Yeah.
is you can start thinking about, running a to-go business completely. So you
Yes.
have more of a to-go, less of a retail presence, right?
Yes.
You could do that.
Yeah.
But now, post COVID-19, you could do that.
Yeah.
Schools, education, right? Relying on more online resources.
Yes.
People like you with your knowledge, and your abilities, you should be taking advantage of the fact that there is technology. And
Mm-hmm.
you should be distributing the technology and your knowledge through the technology
Yes.
to students who can learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, history will only be kind to us if the next generation can learn from what we have and
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an important part of this equation, you know,
Absolutely.
because, when people ask me this, I tell them that's your key. Your key is think about how you can apply the technology. Think about how you can apply new ways of doing business,
Yes.
right? Okay, gas stations. I'll give you a great example of gas stations. Gas stations today, when you go pump the gas, every time you touch a gas uh, nozzle, it has to be cleaned, right?
Yes.
And you
Mm-hmm.
don't swipe your hand,
Yep.
right? Now, what happens if instead of having a gas station, I have gas delivered to my house
They're
and my
starting to
car
have
is
that
still
kind
there?
of thing now too.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So they have companies out there exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take gas out completely and you have an electric car, right?
Yep.
And you have a charging station that just comes to your house, charges your car every morning, and you're done.
Yep.
Or you can call, you're driving 300 miles to Oklahoma, the charger comes and charges your car when
Yes.
you're running out, right? You
Mm-hmm.
call a number, a centralized location. There are these mobile units. The mobile unit comes in and charges your car,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there are different ways to think about how you can improve your current lifestyle even more, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's how small businesses have to think because we are the foundation of innovation,
Yes. Absolutely.
okay? And larger companies, when I think about $1 billion company or a $5 billion company or a 10 billion, $30 billion company,
Yeah.
they get caught up in PowerPoint hell,
Yes.
okay? Leverage guys like us who can come back and tell you how to innovate and
Mm-hmm.
show you how to innovate,
Yes.
you know, without worrying about the politics, the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Going to market. It takes 4 years to put an innovation. I lived it.
Yeah.
You know, okay. If you had the same thing outside, right, the corporation, and you had it, your own separate P&L, we could have invented that product a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm
there are
coming to
ways
find
to.
that people are uh, having to do things a lot quicker, faster,
That's
sooner.
right.
Some of their this is another thing I also said in another interview. They have these visions of the future of ideas and other things that they want to do, and it's like, oh, well, now's the time to maybe start implementing some of those things and ideas that you had from before and tweaking it to match the market now in
That's right.
general, because there's necessities, there's still services that we all need that makes it the world go around. It makes up our life. I mean, and you brought up all things that are necessity. You need gas in your car. That's important. You need food. I mean, as much as I'd like to cook every single meal every single day, uh,
That's right.
but while working and doing other things, I mean, we need food service still out there. You just have to be, keeping up with circumstances kind of around you now. And I think now is the
Yeah.
time for people to take a step back and not think about all the effects that it has had in a negative way. More so start thinking about, because this is circumstances now and this is going to be circumstances for quite some time, what new ideas can I be thinking of to start a new business or start or make changes to the
Excellent.
existing business that
Excellent.
I have, and start writing down those visions and get to work, because
Yeah.
people need it. This isn't
Yeah.
about trying to sell somebody something. It's
That's
about
right.
being able to keep up with the demand of necessities that are needed out there and
That's
services that
right.
are needed.
No, you're absolutely right. You notice in this conversation, even though I know some of the brands that I've been working with,
Yeah.
I constantly think about how do I tell the brand this is some way for you to innovate and take advantage of the situation
Yes.
without compromising your brand identity,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there are ways to do that. And that is part of the uh, knowledge we need to impart to the small businesses too.
Yes.
Because getting a loan, getting a grant, getting some sort of way for them to get funding, right?
Yes.
To promote their businesses, I think is going to be very critical. That
Yeah.
stimulus package is great. I mean, $1,200 into my bank account ain't going to do the trick.
Unfortunately, not. No.
Yeah, yeah. But if I know that I have an idea and I can get some help, right? That's what we do. You
Yes.
know, when all these mentoring, that's how I came into contact with you. When people came into contact with me, they wanted to know, where do we go? We have a brilliant idea. Where do we go to get funding? This
Yes.
is why I went to the family offices and all my contact list,
Yeah.
you know, in the venture capital world or private equity. And there are people who fund these projects, right? Because they have the money.
Yep.
And so we need to encourage and harness that power.
Yes.
And I think this has really taught us humility. As people, COVID-19 has taught us humility because it has told us, I don't discriminate.
Yes.
I'm the wrath of God, right? And you have to deal with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to kind of wrap things up, I wanted to close with just obviously we went through some of the golden nuggets already. You've given some amazing advice, and I feel that I'm in very much so in alignment with everything that you're saying and the messages that you're giving out to everybody. But to just kind of close things up a little bit, because I'd like to even maybe continue this at another time as things progress and the changes are becoming a little bit more public and there's more answers and all these things. But in the meantime, what message would you like to give out to people in closing of this conversation, just to if there's anything that comes from your heart? I know you're just a huge philanthropist, and I know that you care so much about the human race, and are just open to all people, all cultures, all countries. You're very inclusive, and that's what I love about you, because I too am the same way. So from a global standpoint too, is not, well, not just for the people here in America, from a global standpoint, what is the message you would like to give in closing to this?
Never give up.
Mm-hmm.
We are smarter than any virus that has been created. Don't give up, right?
Yeah.
And also understand, be humble, because you have to understand that there is a power beyond you, right?
Absolutely.
But think creatively as to what you can do to create a solution to solve the problem,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and keep your morale up.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important, right? If you give up and say, look, I'm done, now this thing has beaten you. We don't want it to beat us.
Yeah.
We can beat it, right? Follow the advice of the people who are experts like Dr. Fauci and all these wonderful people who are
Yes.
telling us things, right?
Yes.
Okay? Follow the advice. When somebody says social distancing is good, follow it.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You don't have to say, I don't want to follow it. So, and there are some very practical things you can do as even in these different countries. Wear a mask if you're sick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Don't go out there and infect somebody else because you want to go enjoy a drink at the bar.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and for the governments, here's what I'll tell you, don't get caught flat-footed like this.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yes.
Take the precautions, and then if you can take the precautions and you can terminate this issue quicker, the better off you are.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So remember, at the beginning, I told you that there are three things I wanted to communicate, right?
Absolutely.
We, as a country, should have had enough testing kits.
Mm-hmm.
We as a country should have had enough diagnostic capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And we should have had preventive measures in place. Now, you can't combat any new virus that comes in all the time, but you should be able to mobilize the units at
Yeah.
a minute's notice,
Yes.
right? And that is the key. That's the message I want to give. Learn from this. Mobilize. You should be able to mobilize. So, they play war games,
Yes.
all right?
Yeah.
And to me, here was a war that you didn't know existed. How come you didn't play this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the funding for who was it cut? I don't know whether it's the right thing that the president did or not. I'm not going to comment on it. All I can tell you is if there is funding that has to be given to an organization that can actually help mobilize the resources, do it.
Yes. Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
And for the small businesses, never give up. Because you will come back. You will have a rebirth, right? The economy will come back. People will have to spend their money.
Yes. Yes.
But they have to see it. And the stimulus packages that we are giving as a country, let's figure out how to use it wisely.
Yes. Absolutely.
You've seen what's happened in different parts of the world. Like I see what's happened in Korea, China, Japan, Italy, for example.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Italian friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll tell you, to this day they're worried. It's been months.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's a culture that is all inclusive, family, gatherings.
Yes.
Right? If all of a sudden I had to stop my family gathering, it's like the Indian culture, huge.
Yes.
Family, right?
Yes.
We can't even meet our own families.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my advice is it'll pass, but think creatively.
Yes.
About solutions for the problem for the future that can help us not get into another disaster like this.
Absolutely. 100%. And again, thank you so much, Nick, for just imparting all of your wisdom to us and just being the philanthropist that you are, and the care of the human race and the earth and all of those great things. And again, just like Nick says, during this time like this, do not give up. Don't sit still. Find the solutions. Be a part of a solution, not the problem. Is as cliche as that sounds, be part of the solution, not the problem. Don't take those types of risks. The kind of risk that we should be taking is working towards any visions that we feel is put in our hearts and working towards that. So again, thank you so much, Nick. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to our YouTube channel. We're going to have way more videos coming up. We'll even have Nick back at another time too as well. And until then, everybody stay safe out there. Think smart. Get your visions together. Be a part of the solution. And until next time.
Be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And don't give up.
And don't give up.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.